but professional network on Facebook. Prior to that, founder of Superfan, a social media startup that was also successful. And then the kind of meat of the discussion tonight, Tickle.com, which you were co-founder and CFO, I believe.
Chief strategist and 8 other titles, I think, over 7 years, yeah.
Lots of hats. It's sold to Monster.com for $100 million plus, and we're going to hear the story of that. So tell us about Tickle. Tell us about the founding of it, growing it, raising money, and ultimately selling it. Give us the...
Sure. So hopefully some of you are familiar with Tickle. It was the largest personality testing site on the web. So the roots go back to 1999, came out of Harvard Business School, and a classmate, James Currier, and I started the company. We had taken a Myers-Briggs test, as all HBS students take, and we realized no one was doing that back in 99 on the internet. So we created a personality testing site. We started with PhDs creating anxiety tests, depression tests, and our whole thesis was we want to make this shareable and fun. And it's not that fun to find out your friends are depressed, and we kind of blew it. So we had raised about $1 million of angel money. It's December of '99, and we're realizing that this just isn't working. So we thought about what do people in the Midwest that shop at Walmart like? They like babies and puppies and angels and stuff. So we created a test called What Breed of Dog Are You? And What Breed of Dog Are You took off for us in December of '99. And we did 1 million.
I think I took that one, by the way.
Yes.
I seem to remember that one.
We did 1 million page views the entire month of December, which sucks. And then when we launched that, we did 1 million a day. And that kind of put us on the map. And we followed that up with the Celebrity Matchmaker, and we had Howard Stern as one of the potential results, and he melted our servers. Everybody was calling Howard and saying, "I'm your perfect match." And then at that point, we went from December being really depressed and not having a lot of traffic to having a ton of media coverage, which was great. And at that point, in February of 2000, we had our first offer to buy the company from a company called Women.com, which eventually was bought by iVillage, I think. And back in '99 and early 2000, valuations were crazy. It was before the dot-com crash, and Women.com was worth $200 million. And they offered us $20 million. And $20 million for some guys that were doing this for, 7-8 months at that point sounded pretty good. And also at that same time, we had an offer from August Capital to invest in us. And that was interesting as well. The $20 million offer, we knew that the market was getting kind of crazy, and we knew that because there was going to be a lockup of about 6 months, we were going to be taking a big risk if we took that $20 million. We didn't know where the market would go over that period. We figured it was probably going down because things had gotten so crazy. We thought maybe the market might go down 50% for their stock. 6 months later, it went down 90%. So we were very smart to take the money from August Capital and move the company from Cambridge out to San Francisco in 2000.
Okay, so that was your Series A.
Series A, $9 million from August.
Great. So that was your first financing and first turning down an acquisition offer. So move us forward a little bit to the next kind of fork in the road, if you will, where you were debating raising another round or selling the company.
So we got through the dot-com crash barely, but we made it with that Series A money, and then turned things around in 2002, and actually won the Webby Award as the fastest growing site on the internet. So things really turned around for us in 2002. We found our stride, and then in 2002 to 2003, we went from 1 million to 4 million to 16 million to 32 million. Things were taking off on the revenue side. And we got to a point in 2004 where we had bankers coming to say, "Hey, we want to take you public." And the reality is, it's really hard to take a company public. Smaller media companies get bought by bigger media companies. That's kind of the way it works. So we knew that was probably unlikely. But we hit a point where we were doing probably $25 million of revenue at that point, and Excel, who's actually my current investor in BranchOut, had come to us and said, "We want to put $20 million in at a $100 million valuation." Right, so that's pretty attractive, and that's exciting. And at the same time, Monster.com came to us and said, "You're the largest personality testing, but also the largest career testing site. We're really interested in that, and for a lot of other reasons as well." So we were at that crossroads. We had to make a decision, and I think every entrepreneur wants to have to make that hard decision, but it is hard. because Monster realized either they bought us then or they didn't have the market cap to support a bigger acquisition. So a Series B investor is going to want at least 5x their money. So at a $100 million valuation, you need to sell for $500 million. Okay, that's a big number. There's not that many companies that do $500 million acquisitions, especially for a personality testing site. So yeah, or even $100 million, which that kind of worked out. So I guess there's a punchline. We took the money. So and at that point it is hard because computers don't run businesses, people do, and there are real decision factors that come into play that are human factors. Like my partner, my business partner James, had 2 kids, and we had gone through the dot-com crash, and it was hard. I feel like I aged 10 years in 2 going through that, and as a first-time entrepreneur, never having made any money, to have a $100 million offer on the table, and I want to talk about an earn-out component of that. $95 million of it was guaranteed. Done, we're getting that. And then there was an earn-out component that we could have probably made another $50 million. And the reality is we made far less than that. We made more than the 95 to take us over 100, but it was less than that. But we knew that 95 was going to be enough for us, and that was a life-changing moment. And so we decided to take the acquisition over the investment. It's actually a hard decision. You've got people like Mark Cuban, who was very smart to sell for $5.7 billion to Yahoo, and now he gets to be Dallas Mavericks dude and have a great life. That's pretty awesome. And then you've got guys like Mark Zuckerberg, who were really smart. He saw a path to go beyond the $1 billion offer from Yahoo. I don't know that he ever thought they'd be worth $85 billion today on second market, but he saw a path to go bigger. Andrew Mason reportedly turned down $6 billion from Google a couple months ago, and now the latest is that they may be going public for 15 to 20 billion later this year. They saw a path that they could get to that next level with a fairly small amount of risk, with a lot of upside. With James and I, with Tickle, we thought that it was going to be really hard to hit that next level, and I think Mark Cuban was smart to sell when he did as well.
Yeah, good stuff. Did you have both the funding offer and the acquisition offer on the table at the same time, or they?
Yeah, and these things often happen the same time, just like with the Women.com offer and August Capital. The company gets hot, and there's a lot of interest, and that frenzy can be both from investors as well as acquirers. The reason why Monster jumped in is because they heard that Excel was going to put the money in, and at that point they came to us and said, talk to us before you do this deal, because they either bought us then or they weren't going to have a chance to later. So they actually got in the process quickly. The reason why the deal could happen so quickly also is because James and I controlled most of the stock for Tickle, and we had one investor with Andrew Anker from August. It was a really easy negotiation.
What was your seed investor telling you at that point? I mean, the venture model is built on home run exits, and it's a very nice exit. But were they? Yeah. What kind of advice were they giving?
So August Capital, so Andrew Anker was great. I think that they felt like that was as good as it was going to get without having major risk in the business to never get to 500 million, right? They were going to take dilution as well as we were by taking on the Series B money, and that they'd rather cash out. And by the way, they put money in the first week of March of 2000, the week the NASDAQ cratered. So for them to get any return, if there's any VCs, you'll know, to get any return from kind of a vintage of investment at that time was a big win.
Cool, awesome, very, very interesting. Let's talk about. So you're at the fork in the road. You decide to go down the acquisition path instead of raising more money and going for, mega home run. Talk about the process of doing the deal with Monster. To the degree that you can discuss, talk about negotiating. Did you have another stalking horse acquire in the wings? Share that story.
Well, it was fairly easy because they knew we had a real offer on the table from Excel. So as an entrepreneur, if you can create that frenzy and have 2 or 3 or more potential acquirers or investors interested in you, obviously you can accelerate or increase the value. of the company. When you've got a hard offer and they know exactly what it is, and for us it was $100 million. For Monster, it actually, the numbers worked out nicely because they were trading at a 4x revenue multiple in the public market. So they applied that to our $25 million of revenue and got to the same 100. So actually that part was easy on the valuation. It was an interesting negotiation because it was basically James and I in a room with Andy McKelvey, the chairman of Monster, chairman of a public company, but he actually controlled something like a quarter of the stock, which is rare. And we were in a room together, and Andy said 80, we said 120, he said 95 with an earnout. That's fair. And he's a billionaire, and you're like, yeah, that's fair. And we shook hands, and the deal was done. Like it was literally that easy, which is not going to happen to most people, but. And when a billionaire says that to you, and you're like, Jesus, that is pretty good, right? So, like, yeah, there's no more negotiation at that point.
Negotiation 101 right there. That's it.
When someone says $100 million, you say yes. Yeah.
Interesting. I like it. So that was the leverage point you had is Excel's funding offer, basically.
Yes.
Good. How about due diligence period or the negotiation sounds pretty straightforward.
Yep.
What else can you tell us? How did you take care?
So I mentioned the earnout. So I think that having an earnout is fair. I think that when someone is paying a large sum of money for your company, there should be a transfer of knowledge. I think the entrepreneur and the team should be moving over to the acquiring company, and I think the appropriate period is probably 1 year. We had a 3-year earnout. Now, of course, we could have left whenever we wanted, and we had incentives to stay. And I also made a commitment to Monster and a commitment to my employees that I would stay, so I can sleep well about that at night. But I think a 1-year earnout is appropriate. More than that, as an entrepreneur, you start to get the itch to do another one, unless you've got the autonomy within the organization. And related to the earnout, so a friend of mine right now is looking, well, he's not looking to sell the company, but he's got a really interesting offer on the table. It's a $100 million offer in quotes because it's a $40 million guaranteed, $60 million earnout. And the reality is he's not going to come close to that $60 million. I know this. I mean, this is what happens when large companies acquire smaller ones. Things change. You don't control the company anymore. They gave you a lot of money. They're in control. That's fine. You made the decision to sell. But don't expect that you're going to have the same level of control that you had prior to that. So when you've got more than half of the enterprise value in an earnout, I'm trying to tell him, if $40 million is enough for you, like 95 was enough for us, then we're good. If your number is 100, you're probably not going to get there. So just think that through as you're in a position, hopefully someday, to sell a company that the earnout is gravy.
What if you can share this? What was the criteria for hitting your earnout? I mean, you were doing $25 million in revenue in 2004.
Yeah.
Somewhat tough economic times at that point. Or
04 was actually picking up, so it wasn't that we had economic challenges. What happens is you've got a path, and if you could just stay on that path, you might be able to really maximize that. But the acquiring company, as they should, wants you to do certain things for them that increase the value of the company overall in their eyes. You may not agree with it, but they are the acquiring company, and they distract you from what you hoped you could work on to maximize an earnout.
Can you talk about what metrics you were judged by to hit the...
Yeah, so I mean, one would be, revenue was one of those, and in the past I had controlled the marketing budget and could spend, at will. We're profitable, but could spend what we wanted to. And then, Monster wanted to clamp down on that and really focus on profitability. Well, when your earnout is revenue-based and marketing is driving a lot of that, I mean, yeah, you own us, so I get it that you've got the final say, but now you're really hurting my ability to maximize the earnout.
Got it. Okay. And other scar tissue from post-acquisition, the deal closes, you're there for, how long were you there for?
Almost 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
What happened to the team that you brought in, your founders, any interesting stories there?
So the team actually held together really well until I left and started branch out and grabbed most of the best tickle people, and they're working for me there. As long as the acquiring company gives the founding team autonomy, I feel like you can keep the team together. the acquiring company should also, provide incentives to, typically stock options to keep people motivated, because a lot of people in Silicon Valley, especially in startups, are motivated by that founder stock or that early stock. So you've got to continue to give them an incentive.
Yeah, good. All right. Well, one or two more questions, and we'll open it up to the audience. So